Florida Flight 90. The flight which crashed in the cold. Story of how overspeed led to underspeed. Air Florida Flight 90 was a scheduled passenger commercial flight that was flying from Washington National Airport to Fort Lauderdale International Airport. Air Florida Flight 90 was standing at the gate. It was waiting on January 13th, 1982 for its takeoff, previously scheduled at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. However, a heavy snowstorm, which I obviously can't denote here, had closed the airport and de-icing was happening of the aircraft. Now, there's some things you need to know about de-icing. Basically, when there's lots of snow on the aircraft, especially on the wings, because the wings generate thrust, if you try and take off with ice melted into your wings, that disturbs the airflow, and that can lead to loss in lift, and therefore a stall and a crash can occur. Remember that. So basically, when there's snowstorms before takeoff, they would actually hire vehicles, which I don't have, to actually spray the wing with de-icing fluid. And however, there was a problem because this wing, they had started the spraying process on one wing and finished it before the airport announced, no, we're going to close the airport shortly because we need to de-ice the runway because there's too much snow and ice. So basically the captain then said, wait a second, they're closing the airport, but if we finish the de-icing process now, then it might be, who knows what, 2 hours by the time we have to take off, and then we'll have to de-ice the plane again, and we'd have to pay for that. And captain said, no, pause the de-icing. So remember, one wing is already done, and the other wing is waiting for the airport's approval to be de-iced. Now, the flight was obviously very delayed. It was actually, I'll reveal the time beforehand. It was going to take off at 3:59 p.m. Obviously, it was never going to land. Now, I'm going to have to give you kind of unrealistic, but good for the video, structure. This is Washington, D.C. National Airport. Nearby is the Pentagon, somewhere over there. The White House is there. Now, there are runways leading straight this way. And this, I've denoted it. It's kind of just draw an imaginary boundary. Let me just go back. There is one runway, let's just say. Draw an imaginary boundary there. This coming from kind of there, from the bathroom, and going this way, that is the Potomac River. Sorry. Planes will usually take off, fly high over the Potomac River, and just fly. But they will usually fly over the Potomac River after takeoff. Now, there are 3 bridges on the Potomac River that are kind of important, but the last one of them is the most important. I haven't put them up yet, I will. There was 1, 2, the third one is the 14th Street Bridge. That you will have to remember, because that is where, I'm not going to say actually. I've given you an overview, now keep that in mind. Something else you need to know. Inside the engines, there is actually kind of, you could call it a speedometer. It basically measures how much air is flowing through the engine. So basically, if this, you measure the speed and when you take off based on that. Now, I'll give it away. They had forgotten to check in that speedometer inside. There was actually snow all over it. And if there's snow and you're trying to measure airflow, it's gonna measure obviously much less than what's actually needed. So I will tell you what came of that later on, but that isn't the main culprit, because if only this problem was there and the wings, the aerodynamic disruption, because yes, when the airport reopened, they did the next wing. But remember, there's now snow over there and they couldn't be bothered. So now there's aerodynamic disruption, so the lift force is low. If there was only the problem in the engine, but the lift was good, the plane would not have crashed. If there was only the problem with the wing, but the engine was wrong, the plane may have crashed, but it would not, okay, I'm giving it away. It would not have crashed on the 14th Street Bridge, killing 4 more people. Yes, it crashed on a bridge right over the Potomac River. Good thing it hit the edge. Otherwise, if it hit mid-bridge, it would kill even the 5 people well, technically 6 people survived the crash. But one of them died in the water. So I'll just count 5. It would have killed the 5 remaining survivors on there and would have killed even more people in the 14th Street Bridge. Okay, now I'm just gonna jump to the taxi back. At 3:59 p.m. local time, Air Florida Flight 90 began speeding down the runway. The first officer knew something was off and he kept on saying stuff. But the captain insisted, and I will send you the voice recorder right now. If that was unclear to decipher, the first officer said, "Look at that thing." Basically, look at that thing. That can't be right. And the captain said, "Yeah, it is. That's 80." What the first officer was seeing was 2 things. One, he saw, because there was different amount of snow piled in each, because they're in both engines. There was different amount of snow piled in each speedometer, as you can say. It's kind of a speed measurer. So they were showing different speeds. So the first officer was like, "Wait, that can't be right. How is that?" And the second thing he was saying was, since they're detecting less speed, the plane's actually going faster. And the first officer and the captain, they've flown a lot of times. They have a feeling of what 80 knots looks like. And the first officer looks out, and the captain's obviously focused on the instruments, because the first officer's looking outside, because the first officer's flying. The captain's just looking down and kind of not paying that much attention outside. And the first officer is looking out, and he's like, "Okay, we must be at 100, and he looks down and she's saying 80. He's like, "Man, that can't be right." And the captain's like, "Yeah, it is, that's 80. And then he's like, "Nah, it can't be right." Because they're going too fast, and that's going to have implications when the plane takes off immediately. Okay, so since the plane's going much faster, if the ailerons lift, which I haven't really made, but if they lift, even in the same amount, imagine if you're going 1 knot. Obviously, when the ailerons lift, you won't take off. If you're going 10, 20, 30, if you're a Cessna and you're going 40 knots, then lifting the aileron might push your nose a little bit up. Obviously, if you're going faster, your nose goes higher even with the same amount. So watch what happens. The plane is going fast and it takes off. But since it's going really fast, it takes a high takeoff, like real high. And you can hear that actually. I won't show you now. So the plane is climbing really, really high, and suddenly the stick shaker alarm goes off. Now, those of you who kind of know a little bit aviation, they know the stick shaker alarm is an alarm that's saying you're pitching too high, you might stall. Get your nose down now. You're too arrogant. I'm kidding. So basically, the captain's like, "Hey, push it down, push it down, push it down. We only need 500. That means 500 feet. He's ascending too high. And by the way, they've crossed the Potomac River. Now it's dangerous territory and a terrible bridge." Okay, so basically, the first officer is pushing it down, but he doesn't push down that much. And too late. He's pushed up high enough, now they're stalling. The plane reached a maximum height of 600 feet before it began falling towards the Potomac River and the 14th Street Bridge. The airplane, Florida Flight 90, successfully cleared 2 bridges, which I haven't depicted here, but they couldn't clear the 14th Street Bridge. The aircraft, still in a nose-up position, impacted the bridge. The aircraft bounced on the 14th Street Bridge and plunged into the frozen Potomac River. The tail and the front separated, and I can't really show that here, neither can I make it go into the ice or the floor. But the 14th Street Bridge was badly damaged. 4 people were killed on the bridge, and only 5 people survived. Well, 6 people survived the plane crash itself, but one of them kept giving the rescue rope to other people, and he gave it twice, and when they came back for him, he was dead. He drowned. So in total, only 5 people survived, and 4 of them were killed on the bridge. So overall, 1 person survived. Air Florida Flight 90. Recreation and CVR.